Hi everyone, welcome back to the Caistrology channel, and if you're new here, welcome. My name is Cailin, and today we're going to be looking at your December 2025 horoscopes. I am filming this while Mercury is retrograde conjunct Mars, so please bear with me. I'm a double Mercury-ruled person, so these ones always hit me pretty hard. In any case, today we're going to be looking at the full moon in Gemini, the new moon in Sagittarius, and of course we've got Mars in Sagittarius making a square with Saturn in Pisces and then Neptune in Pisces. So you can watch your horoscope for your ascendant, sun and moon sign. I do recommend that you watch all three if you have the time. If you've only got time to watch one horoscope, then I would start off with your ascendant, also known as your rising sign horoscope. So in other news, I'm on Instagram and Facebook, so you can follow me at Caistrology. If you're wanting to book a private one-on-one reading, you can do so via caistrology.com. All the links are below. So without further ado, let's just get straight into your December horoscope. Hi Gemini Sun, Moon and Risings, welcome to your December 2025 horoscope. December is a really impactful month for anyone who's a mutable sign, so that's really Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius and Pisces. So let's start from the top. As the month begins, we've got Venus entering the sign of Sagittarius. So when Venus transits our 7th house, which it will do for just over 3 weeks, this can be a time where your romantic situation can improve, so there can be more of a focus on your love life and on investing time in your relationship with your significant other. Obviously, not everyone is in a relationship, but it was just something to note as the month begins. Venus transiting the 7th house could see there being more services that you engage in. Okay, so that could be one-to-one services that other people offer, or maybe this could be more offerings that you're putting on the table. Okay, so there can be an increase in sales, in clients, and basically just some kind of improvement or enhancement to the existing services that you offer. Obviously, that won't apply to everyone, so just take it as it resonates. In general, when Venus transits our 7th house, it can really help out our one-to-one personal relationships. So that can be with a business partner, with your significant other, with your best friend. The 7th house also rules over our second-born child specifically. So Venus transiting your 7th house could indicate there being some kind of positive new development in the life of your second-born child. On the 4th or the 5th of December, depending where you live in the world, there will be a full moon in Gemini in your 1st house, and this will be at 13 degrees. So whenever we have full moons or new moons or even aspects occurring at 13 degrees, which is the Aries degree, there can be some kind of challenge or conflict involved. Ultimately, this full moon in your 1st house could indicate that there is a challenge that you need to overcome or a conflict that arises that you're needing to somehow iron out. So with this particular full moon, it is going to be in a somewhat wide opposition to both Venus and Mars in Sagittarius. So this is activating your 1st and your 7th house axes. So there could be a really important conversation that you have with another person. You could receive some kind of letter, email, or correspondence that you find to be kind of surprising, and it doesn't need to be quote unquote negative. You know, this particular full moon in Gemini is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury at the time will be in Scorpio in a kind of close grand water trine with Jupiter in Cancer and Saturn in Pisces, and then Neptune's a little further out at 29 degrees. So this could indicate that there is some kind of situation that can be resolved peacefully, but there may just be a bit of tension at the beginning. Okay, so it could be like a heated conversation or a discussion. What comes to mind actually is like a miscommunication. So having this conversation or having this miscommunication and then realizing that it was all a big misunderstanding. Interestingly, this particular full moon is making a perfect square to both the North Node and the South Node. in Pisces and Virgo respectively. And of course, Virgo is also ruled by Mercury. And then, Pisces, as well as what we've got going on in Sagittarius, is ruled by Jupiter. So I do think that there is some kind of course correcting conversation that may arise around this full moon. So I repeat, that's the 4th or the 5th of December, depending where you live in the world. But this can also occur 1 to 2 weeks before, or even 1 to 2 weeks after the full moon. I guess on a different note, when we have a full moon in the first house, it can be a time where we're really taking stock of our situation, and this goal or objective that occurs could be something that you decide to set for yourself, like a personal goal. I want to transform this situation. I want to let go of this habit. I want to do things differently. I want to take action towards completing this thing or removing this thing from my life. So there could be a big shift that occurs for you on an inner level, and this could really impact how you show up in your one-to-one personal relationships, again with that opposition to both Venus and Mars, where people are noticing that there's a change in you, there's a change in where you're placing your attention, maybe how you're communicating, maybe how you're carrying yourself, how you conduct yourself socially. And I do think that that can have a really positive impact on all kinds of personal relationships for you. On the 9th of September, Mars in Sagittarius in your 7th house is going to square Saturn in Pisces at 25 degrees in your 10th house. Okay, so Mars is anger, frustration, being easily triggered. So it's like our temper is just really at the surface, because Sagittarius is a fire sign. And so Mars in Sagittarius in the 7th house is like, you're triggering me. An external situation is triggering me. An external event is triggering me. It's some kind of external force outside of your control that feels like it's trying to provoke you. It's trying to get you to react. Okay, so there could be some kind of suppressed fears that are rising to the surface with this particular square. And this could be around like your public reputation, your career. What is this person going to think? What are these people going to say? How is this going to look? And so there's this energy with Mars squaring Saturn of, oh, I need to like really control my emotions. I need to make sure that I'm not showing even the slightest bit of agitation or irritation. So there could be this feeling of like an authority figure or someone in a position of power, or even a government body that is trying to trigger you into making like a wrong move or a misstep somehow. Just remember that this particular aspect, so Mars squaring Saturn, is actually what will help you to set boundaries, to be disciplined, to be cautious in the action that you take. It's about not going too far. Okay, so this is also an aspect which can play out as people misunderstanding you, or a situation being misrepresented somehow. So I only mention this as a fellow Gemini. I'm a Gemini rising, because it's important to always remember who you are, despite what other people might be saying. And I guess it's important to still be authentic in your own self-expression and not focus too much on how things are going to look, because Mars in Sagittarius is asking you to be honest. Sagittarius is a sign of honesty. And so Mars is like your action that you take being in alignment with your higher morals and your personal code of ethics. So on the 12th of December, we're going to have Mercury re-entering the sign of Sagittarius. So of course, Mercury is your chart ruler. And we already had Mercury in Sagittarius from late October through till about mid-November. And we of course had a Mercury retrograde cycle split over Sagittarius and Scorpio. So just remember that the post-shadow period for the Mercury retrograde will still very much be in effect up until the 17th of December. Okay, so at which point Mercury will go beyond the initial stationing degree. If you wanted to play it real safe, then you could wait until early January once Mercury enters Capricorn. But in any case, Mercury is not super happy in the sign of Sagittarius. Okay, so you'll just have to be mindful of what you say and what you post, what you put out there, and the conversations that you have, at least until the 17th of December. On the 14th of December, Mars in Sagittarius in your 6th house is going to square Neptune in Pisces in your 10th house at 29 degrees. So when we experience Mars square Neptune, it's like our anger or our frustration can spill into all of these areas at work, potentially, with it being in the 10th house, where it's like, oh, I didn't mean to snap at that person. I let my irritability just kind of ooze out all over the place. So it can be a feeling of one's frustration and irritability and just emotions in general not being able to be contained. So Mars square Saturn and then Mars square Neptune is like, I'm trying really hard to control my emotions, to not be emotional, to not get upset, to not tell people what's going on in my personal life or in my relationships. But there could be a moment where that, I don't want to call it a mask, but that armor cracks. Okay, so again, this is between, the 9th and the 14th of December are really like the bookend periods, but that can be like a few days after that and a few days before that. So if you feel as though you won't be able to necessarily control or hide your emotions at work or in some kind of public situation, or even as it relates to maybe dealing with an authority figure or one's own father, then you may just want to make sure that you're not in a position where that's going to happen. Maybe it's like, I don't want to pick up the phone during this period of time. You know what I mean? So conversations that I had around that time could feel like they're pendulum swinging between being overly controlled, overly contrived, and then it's just like, oh my God, there's no boundaries, like the words are tumbling out. Or you could be on the receiving end of that, where someone kind of blows up at you. It is possible having Mars in the 7th house. And, I don't say this lightly, but for me personally, as a Gemini rising, I would prefer to be the one, I guess, being on the receiving end of someone's emotions just exploding out of control, rather than losing my composure or my cool and then being like, oh my God, I can't believe I said that. Now they think that I'm like a psycho. You know what I mean? So, or maybe you don't, maybe you prefer the opposite. Anyway, so just remember that Neptune will be at 29 degrees and it is going to be squaring Uranus in Taurus pretty closely at 28 degrees. And so this is helpful in the sense that Uranus can dissolve difficult situations overnight, or not even overnight, instantaneously. So conversations or situations that kind of blow up out of control during maybe mid-month do have this avenue of being able to be transformed, transmuted into something else, or it's just like, okay, that cleared the deck and now we can move forward, right? So next, what we've got happening on the 15th, so the next day on the 15th of December, we're going to have Mars entering the sign of Capricorn. Okay, and then, you know, throughout the rest of the month, we'll have the Sun entering Capricorn and then Venus entering Capricorn. So for you, Gemini, the dominant focus is on your 7th house for the most part of December. And then towards the end of the month, we've got the focus sort of transitioning into the 8th house. So certainly for the first 3 weeks of the month, it's all about your personal one-to-one relationships, contracts, agreements, arrangements, promises, obligations, what you said you would do, what another person said they would do, getting advice from other people, maybe legal advice, or consulting with some kind of expert or professional. And of course, there is this focus on, you know, if you're in sales, right? Like, what are you selling? What are your offerings? Price points, negotiations. So there could be important contracts that people are wanting you to sign or that you are having to sign, again, in the first 3 weeks of December. And important decisions that involve you and another person. Is this you and your business partner? Is this you and your significant other? Even if it's not you personally, if you are in a partnership or in a marriage, then all of this like dominant Sagittarius activity in your 7th house indicates that if it ain't you, it's your partner who's like going through a lot. They have a lot of moving pieces of the puzzle this month to sort out. And as you can see, I'm just starting to get all, you know, clumsy and chaotic because I'm actually filming this during a Mercury retrograde. So such is life. As I said, Mars is going to enter the sign of Capricorn on the 15th of December. So first of all, Mars is exalted in the sign of Capricorn. So that's like one of Mars's favorite signs to be in. And also because Mars rules over Scorpio and Scorpio is naturally associated with the 8th house, it can be said that Mars is comfortable in the 8th house and it likes to be in the 8th house. So Mars going through the 8th house can see you just tackling fears and insecurities, like combating these head on. You could be transforming a personal situation for the better. There could be hiccups that do come through here. So basically for you guys, Mars rules over your 6th house, which is to do with health and your day-to-day work systems and processes, but then it also rules over your 11th house, which would be your wider network, your communities that you are part of, and your long-term goals, dreams for the future. So like long-term projects, let's call it, right? So Mars going through the 8th house for several weeks could indicate that you're maybe transforming a health situation. Okay, so your habits, your lifestyle, work-life balance, this can see you transforming some unhealthy habits, and this could be overcoming addictions, just as an example. Of course, there could be some kind of health situation that does arise during this time, but you know, as I said, Mars is exalted in the sign of Capricorn. So with Mars ruling over your 11th house, this could indicate that there's a changing of the tides when it comes to friends, maybe your relationship with an older sibling, networks or communities that you are part of, or even a long-term project that you're working on. So for example, maybe there's like a big pivot that takes place, or there could be a new long-term project or goal of yours that kind of comes up really suddenly, and you're just like full steam ahead working on that one. Okay, so then we've got the new moon in Sagittarius at 28 degrees, and this will be occurring in your 7th house. And new moons are all about a new beginning taking place, a new chapter, planting new seeds. Like I said, the 7th house is really activated for you for basically the whole month, let's be real. And this particular new moon is going to be conjunct Venus in Sagittarius, as you can see. It is squaring Saturn and Neptune. And something else to note is that the new moon is actually conjunct the galactic center, which gives it this super potent spiritual energy to it. Okay, so a new moon in your seventh house could indicate a new contract that's being signed, a new relationship that is very mutually beneficial in some way, maybe taking your existing romantic relationship to another level or to a new level. 28 degrees is the Cancer degree in astrology, so there could be important decisions that you are making about your property and your living situation. And of course, with the square to Saturn and Neptune and the conjunction to Venus, it does indicate to me that whatever new chapter is starting in your life is kind of complicated, right? So it's like, what are the moving pieces of the puzzle? This impacts more than one person in your life, and there seems to be a multitude of different considerations here. Okay, so with this new moon in your seventh house, maybe you're having to invest more money or resources than you initially intended. If you're signing contracts with another person, maybe one of you has to compromise a bit more than the other person. Because of the square to Saturn and Neptune, maybe there's some element of uncertainty or the unknown where it's like, I'm agreeing to something, but I don't even know exactly what I'm agreeing to, where the terms and conditions are a little bit fuzzy, or it's a situation that maybe just requires blind faith. I'm certainly not advising you what to do in this situation. I'm just saying that contracts, sales, agreements, collaborations with other people, whatever's being agreed to around the 20th of December, plus or minus 1 to 2 weeks, I think that at this point, it's like an unknown. Like, you can't possibly know where this new chapter is going to take you because this stuff still has to unfold and unravel. But I think that the next step to you finding out, these other dimensions to this arrangement would be sort of late January, mid-February, and then again 6 months from now. Okay, so we're nearly at the end here. On the 21st or 22nd of September, depending where you... Why do I keep saying September? December, depending where you live in the world, Capricorn season will begin. And then on the 24th or the 25th of December, we've got Venus entering Capricorn. So for the last week of the month, Mars, Sun, Venus, all in your 8th house, which indicates that there is a focus on your mutual resources, being vulnerable, being intimate with other people, maybe even a new sexual relationship that's beginning, or perhaps that part of your romantic relationship could be coming back online, especially if there's been a bit of a dry spell, if we can call it that. The 8th house also rules over anything to do with psychology, therapy, hypnotherapy, occultism, esotericism. So there could be an interest in, astrology, tarot, maybe getting an astrology reading or a tarot reading, or seeing someone who, I guess, uses divination in some way to deliver readings. Okay, Gemini, thank you so much for watching your horoscope. If you enjoyed this reading, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook if you're wanting more regular updates on the astro climate. And in any case, enjoy your month ahead, and I'll see you guys next year in 2026.